Hi, this is Jo from Fine & Country in South West Sussex, and today I'm talking to Tom Bailey, who's Head of Partnerships for I Am Sold, our online partners for auction on properties. Tom, hi, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm very well, Jo, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So what I wanted to ask you, first of all, is what is the modern method of online auction?
Yeah, so the modern method of auction, not to be, I suppose, confused with the traditional method that you would, and some of the public may have seen on Homes with a Hammer. To summarise and not go on for a couple of hours, it's a subject I'm clearly very passionate about. It's a hybrid between that of private treaty, so the conventional way of selling houses in the UK at the moment, and that of traditional auction. So what we give and what we allow for is a bit of the best of a both world scenario. Now that's not for everybody, and we'll maybe go into a bit more detail on that in shortly. But for me, it's about customers that are looking for some form of security that is in addition to that of private treaty, but also with the flexibility that they're not alienating the marketplace. What I mean by that is typically a traditional auction is only really catered for the cash buyer investor marketplace.
Yeah.
By doing that, you are potentially alienating a large proportion of the market to actually transact with you. So what we've done is allow a period of time for exchange of contracts to take place rather than it being immediate. And what that allows people to do is to have some due diligence prior to bidding, but also have some security both for the seller and the buyer that the transaction will go through, usually within a period of about 56 days.
Okay.
And to give you a stat, I suppose, to back that up, pre-COVID, we were seeing about a 47-day completion from sale agree.
Wow.
That's sort of pushed into the 50s now, clearly with everything that's going on, and there's just been a bit light on the ground, etc. But we've seen a real surge in activity, as I think a lot of agencies have since the stamp duty amendments came in, which I think will hopefully give agents a window of opportunity to really capitalise on that into next year.
Okay. And what type of property is best for online auction?
Yeah, it's a very varied actually, and I always like to answer this question with another question. So
Okay.
What I would say is, well, is it the property type that's important, or is it the actual reason that the person is selling that is important? And I think that if you rewind to what I was talking about before with regards to it, not that it's we can sell to anybody. It's not just cash buyers. It's not just investors. We're effectively dealing with the same marketplace as an agency would on private treaty. For me, that kind of tips the balance to be more aligned actually to the reason the customer wants to sell. An example of a property we've sold recently, which is in 1.6 million we transacted at, to look at was a beautiful 4-bedroom detached family home, really nice set of grounds in a really desirable area, but it had been inherited, and the people that had inherited that property didn't want to go through a process of putting it on the market, having it sale agreed, and potentially falling through what they wanted in some uncertainty in their mind of what might happen in years to come was, let's get it on the market, let's find a buyer, let's make sure that it goes through the first time round. So we had that on the market for a couple of weeks. We had reviewings, and we actually ended up just sale agreeing that actually to one person because they came forward with an offer that was, I suppose, slightly above the expectations of what we were anticipating. And that again just shows the flexibility of actually what we do in the transaction model.
Okay, and so that brings me to the next question: is how does it work? How's it different?
Yeah. So I think that most people would probably suspect that because it's an auction, there would always be some form of bidding. Most people are used to eBay in the online auction space, but typically we find that there's 4 ways we would typically transact, which is ultimately sale agreeing. Now, clearly, one of those is an auction where we run a transparent, competitive bidding process via an online platform. But actually, again, rewinding, our job as agents is to make sure we get the best price for the client, the vendor clients. So if we look at a scenario where we've got a property, but actually only one person is interested, putting that to a competitive bidding platform might be a bit futile because we'd have that one person potentially putting a bid forward, but no one there actually to supplement any future bids. So what we would typically do in that scenario is try and find a way to transact with that one person by understanding any flexibility in their offer and understanding what the vendor wants. So that's the second option. Third option is someone comes forward and just says, look, I want to buy this property. Where do I need to be to remove all other interest, and that's almost like that buy it now that people come across. And then fourth, and actually probably what we see most of the time, is where we do have multiple people that want to place a bid, but they're all in different financial or proceedable positions. So a really easy way just to summarize that is, let's say we have two people that are interested, but one is cash in the bank from proceeds of sale, the other is mortgage and is dependent on the sale of their property. In the vendor's eyes, they're both people that are able to transact with them, but both carry very different risks in terms of their proceedability. And what we wouldn't do in that scenario is say, well, okay, if you two just go and bid against each other and the highest bidder wins, because there might just be £1,000 differential there from the seller's perspective. They might think, well, okay, look, if it was only £1,000, we probably would have gone with the more proceedable cash offer. And in that scenario, what we do is we take the bidding offline, to be honest, and what we say to people is, well, look, what are you prepared to pay and what are your conditions? Seller can then effectively review those and take the offer that's best for them, not necessarily the offer that's best in terms of value. So one of our objectives with every single customer we deal with is to transact and get the best acceptable offer, not necessarily the first, and not necessarily the highest. It's actually what is best for that circumstance.
It's a combination of the highest but the most proceedable person, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because not all vendors are looking to enter the market just to get the best possible price. A lot of them are, and I think when we look at both when we're speaking to our partner agents and also when we're speaking to the general public, we almost now have a way in which we filter people through what's likely to be the best sales method for them. And one of those is private treaty, which typically will probably cater for 90% of the general population. But actually, for that 10% who are looking for something a bit more secure or within a timescale that they can control, this is just another option for them to explore. So from an agency perspective, for you, it's great to have that broad tool that you're able to discuss with people. But also for the public, it's something that we're trying to build and change the perception. And I think it's that word auction and almost the home and hammer mentality of what people are used to seeing, but actually behind that there's a very, very different world. And we find that our transaction levels in every area we deal with range from right at the bottom level of the market right into the top. Because let's not forget that actually auctioning any other use classification is deemed to be the way to get the best possible price. If it's fine art, if it's cars, furniture, but for some reason it hasn't quite found that in the property sector yet.
So from an agency point of view, can I just, the reason I've used online auction, I am sold so successfully, is to create a win-win situation with everybody. So my client is the seller and they want to sell and they're motivated to sell quickly, but also as an agent it might be a bit obscure, it might be a bit a difficult one to price. So for example, one that I did successfully a couple of years ago with you was a semi-detached house sitting on 10 acres, which is so unusual. We got over the asking price, but what we do is we then discuss with the seller how much their reserve will be, i.e. the least that they're going to take. And that's got to be, it's got to be attractive to the buyer because the buyer's the one paying the fee. So we have to take the fee out, then we have to make it attractive. And then am I right, Tom, we then start the bids at 10% or thereabouts at the max, below that. So it looks attractive to the buyer, the seller gets what they want, and of course the agency sells it, which is actually a win-win situation for everybody. Is that still the case in how we're doing it?
It is, yeah. And I think what we refer to in the price being appetizing to all parties is there is always going to be a trade-off between price and speed and security. And so from the vendor's perspective, what we want to understand as the agent is what is more important to you? Is it the price you achieve, or is it the sale and the sale happening within a defined period of time?